with all new technology, there is this moment of fear, I think. AI has more fear around it because a lot of the conversation is existential. We were talking about the powers of AI, and I had people from Meta around the table and stuff like that, and we're like, oh yeah, it's brilliant. We're using it for all of this and really understand it. And there was one person who was like, no, this is the end of the human race as we know it. I think it is incredibly hyped up at the moment. It is a tool. And it can add benefit to your company, to you as a person, in terms of taking on some of those elements that you don't particularly enjoy doing. I think the biggest game changer for me was learning to prompt.
Hello, I'm Chris Lisserman, and welcome to Sparks, a series by Cegos. In every episode, we spark something in work and life. And I'm excited this time to be sparking Gen AI with the wonderful Neil Roberts.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, pleasure. Wait.
Do you want to introduce a bit of what you do to everybody?
Yeah. So my name's Neil Roberts. I'm a learning solutions consultant for Cegos in the UK. I go and speak to clients and design their take their learning needs and look at how best to deliver that, whether that's leadership training, maybe some soft skills, power skills as I prefer to call them, and kind of help them through their journey of learning.
And maybe you can't reveal all of the clients, but what kind of industries, what kind of size and scale of clients are we talking about here?
Yeah, so quite a broad range, automotive, pharmaceutical, sort of scientific, food manufacturing, as well as investment banks. I spent 20 years working for a high street bank as well myself in learning and development. So a broad range of different clients, yeah.
So Neil, we've got you here on this topic of AI, particularly Gen AI. Perhaps in your own words, tell us why you're here on that topic.
Yeah, great. So I'm here because, first of all, I deliver training for Cegos for a lot of our clients on how to use AI, what kind of some of the ethics are behind it, what can they do with it from a learning and development perspective. But then also within Cegos ourselves, we are looking at how do we utilize AI, not in a kind of content creation way, but more in a how do we use it to simplify some of our processes. So I'm working on a project at the moment within Cegos in order to actually look at and use some of these AI tools in order to benefit the work that we do and help speed up some of the productivity and simplify processes.
And what's been your experience using AI tools? What have you dabbled in? What have you liked?
So I guess my experience is probably been the same as pretty much everyone else's. I started many years ago when ChatGPT kind of exploded a little bit, and just dabbled with it. See, what is this fun thing? I can get it to make up I was getting it to make up scripts for plays, or I say plays, but just little skits. And I was like, I'll put in wrestlers from WWE and putting them in random locations, say create a script about this. So I got it to do all of these little funny skits and stuff, and I was like, this is a novelty more than anything else. It's a bit of a gimmick,
new toy to play with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then how can I actually start to use it? What's the power that it has behind it? And then started to think about it with the lens of work, and actually what elements are there from there that I can pick out. It can simplify, it can create a lot of this content. It's great that I can make a stupid play about Macho Man Randy Savage in a shoe shop in Slough, but actually how do I create something meaningful that can actually help me? It feels like it's a really powerful tool. So what can I do? And so I started just messing around in terms of getting it to create letters and things like that to begin with, taking some of those mundane admin tasks that I didn't quite enjoy and started playing around. How do I actually get it to do some of these aspects?
So maybe it's gone from being a bit of a toy, something to play with, something to have a bit of fun with, to almost a bit of a personal administrator for you.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. It becomes that assistant that you can kind of, you can turn to and ask those questions. Since lockdowns and being sort of working remotely, having that ability to have somebody that you can kind of bounce ideas off of. I found AI has actually been really useful for some of those aspects where you're not necessarily in that work environment. You haven't got all of those people around. So having somebody that you could just ask the question to, I'm thinking this, and it kind of can sometimes help clarify your own thought process and act as that kind of, as I like to think, the thought wall that you can throw an idea against and it bounces off and you go, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me now. I just needed to vocalize that. And so the AI helped in that kind of way.
And for someone listening in learning and development who has perhaps played with ChatGPT, they've tried it out, they've done some of the fun things, they've tried to apply it to their work, they've perhaps generated content or strategies or ideas. What's next? How do you really get the most out of it?
So I think the biggest game changer for me was learning to prompt properly. So I, as probably everyone has done, has gone on there and just put in a command and it spits out something. And depending on how you feel about that something, you might go, oh, that's great and I loved that. Or it just wasn't really working for me. And so I'm going to put it aside and I'm not going to touch it ever again because it's just not doing what I want it to do. So the biggest step I made was learning that how to create a really good prompt that gives you that utilizes the power of the AI.
And what are we talking about there? What's a good or bad prompt? Is it detail or is there more to it?
Yeah. So absolutely, it's detail. So it's about setting the context. What do you want this AI to create for you? So it can feel like a lot of work when you're actually first starting doing prompts. And you feel like, wow, am I actually saving time by doing all of these, by typing all of this stuff in? But actually, when you start to see the benefits and see the outputs that you get from it and how much better they are than what you were getting before, then you absolutely see the benefit. So yeah, it's about setting the context, saying what role do you want it to play? What is the company or what is the context behind why you're asking it to produce this? Yeah, what is the job role you want it to play? So do you want it to be a salesperson? Do you want it to be your client that you're talking to and act in that way? How set some of the rules that you want it to abide by, because we've probably all witnessed ChatGPT or generative AIs create kind of unique answers to some questions as well. So making sure that we set those rules for it to follow. And kind of what do you want the output to be? Do you want an email? Do you want a message? Like, how do you want it to be structured as well? And kind of give it all of these great prompts and elements, and that will give the AI the information it needs to draw from its huge kind of knowledge bank and give you the kind of really good and useful content that you actually are looking for.
So we can think about giving context. You mentioned how you want it to act. Do you want it to act as something as well? And those couple of things with making me think of how we just delegate work in general. Like good delegation skills almost to apply to AI. Have you given that person the context? Have you told them what role they should play in the thing you're giving to them? You kind of have to do a bit of that way with AI, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because if I'm asking you to do a bit of work for me, what information do you need from me in order to do that work? And so it's incredibly important to think, right, well, if I was asking Chris how to do it, this is what I would say to them. And so you do that with the AI and you get the response back. If I just shouted at you, email
now,
yeah,
write it.
You're just, the whatever I get back is just going to be gibberish to a degree.
It's going to be quite general at least.
Yeah, because it's not going to. You're not going to understand the context. You're not going to understand why, and so you end up in a conversation with it more than anything.
Yeah.
Because you're going, oh yeah, no, I didn't mean this. I actually meant that. And
Yeah.
oh God, could you do
Yeah.
this? And that's where I think a lot of people lose interest because they end up in a conversation with the AI rather than just telling it what you want. And then it comes back and says, is that like kind of, and you were like, yes. And you can make those small details, those changes that make it yours.
And I think one thing that you find, or at least I find when I've improved my prompts or actually done the hard work of doing a proper prompt, is that I two things. I understand my own brief better because it's either come back with some things that I think, oh no, that's not what I meant. And so I need to be specific here. I need to clarify. Or just as you start typing out this prompt and know what you mean there, when you feel like you're doing kind of all the work here and you went to ChatGPT or some other tool to get it to do it for you, and you're sat typing there and you kind of get into the flow a little bit of crafting what you want, and it actually gets you into the flow of producing what you want. And so, there's no bad thing there really, I think, in either helping you clarify your own brief or getting you into the flow of starting to create it.
Yeah, I'd challenge anyone to go and say, okay, go on to ChatGPT, type in, write me a sales email to cold call out to clients, and just put that prompt in and see what you get out. You'll get a response, and you might go, okay, that's it's reasonable. But if you go in there and you say, okay, I want you to act as a cold caller or whatever for sales. I'm aiming for these customers, these kind of clients. This is what I want to achieve, and this is what I would like back. This is the objectives for this email. They're like, I've either got an existing relationship with them or I don't. All of these things, and use that really construct a prompt and see the difference between the two outputs that you get. I guarantee the bigger prompt, the more context, the more detailed prompt will give you a much better result.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's true. And so what are clients asking for when they come to you and they want to apply AI to L&D? What kind of conversations are you having around that?
So at the moment, it is very much a lot of our clients are in that initial phase. They're kind of understanding where the AI tools are, what can they use it for. So they want to kind of come and speak to us about, what do I need to know about AI? We know it's a thing. We've got people using it, but actually we don't really know how to use it properly. We want to make sure the ethical nature of AI is taken into consideration. What does it mean for us? On top of that, there's been EU directive as well, which has meant that a lot of companies in Europe are having to now speed up in terms of their AI training. So there's a lot of kind of getting to understand what is AI, what does it mean for us, and how can we embed it.
And you mentioned the ethics of it. What should we be worried about or concerned about when it comes to the ethics? So we talked about some of the positives. Is this something really we should be using, the rules and things that we should be abiding by?
Yeah, again, it's the same as if you were having a conversation, just the two of you. What ethics drive you to have a conversation? What is binding you to in that the kind of the rules that you play by? You should use essentially those same rules when you're talking about or using AI. But on top of that, you need to make sure that you're, as a company, you're keeping yourself safe, confidentiality of material, your IP, all of these things you need to take into consideration. So again, it's making sure that there is robust security, that when you embed these elements into your IT network, that actually you're not opening yourself up to a lot of issues. So find if you're going to get AI, then pay for it. Don't use a free model, because you are allowing your IP, you're allowing all of the information that you put on there is then able to be used for that AI model in order to learn from it. So there's an element there. But also AI isn't a human. So it doesn't have emotional responses. It also acts off of the biases of those that have programmed it. So any bias that you might put into that will be amplified by AI as well. So we need to be careful of what we do around what we're asking it to prompt and the information that we're putting in there. Are we providing all of these biases? And then AI is just going to go, okay, I see no gray area here. It's black and white. You don't do this, so I'm not going to drive this forwards. So yeah, it's dangerous in that sense of thinking, right, I need to make sure that all of the rules that I have around it.
Yeah, you mentioned approaching it like you would a conversation with a human. What do you mean by that, considering the ethics of it from that point of view?
Yeah, so what would you tell your colleague? What governs your conversations within a company around what you can talk about to each other? What can you talk about to those outside? What can you release around the company? And thinking about the levels that you have of security and whatnot in there, and just think, if I wouldn't be able to have this open conversation, would I have that open conversation with AI as well? And worry about the what am I putting on there? Am I putting on all of the company's IP and
confidential information?
Confidential, yeah, your customers' information, all of these aspects. They then can potentially be used by those AI systems in order to build up the knowledge base. You lose control of it. And it means then it's accessible by other people using the AI tool.
I imagine that can go really wrong for companies of getting that wrong.
Yeah. We see it. We see companies that have, again, when they're in that first phase of just, this is a new tool and there's a novelty and we'll all go on it and we'll all just start doing this. And they start uploading loads and loads and loads of information and uploading loads of material, and they're putting on all of their company's secrets. And then next thing you know, everyone knows everything. So, somebody in Coca-Cola might end up putting on the recipe that, was it only 3 people know? But if somebody did that, then if somebody knew the correct prompts on AI, they could find out what your recipe is.
Yeah, so those are some of the dangers, and I think helpful in terms of talking us through those. And then what about the strengths, the greatest strengths for L&D? What kind of thing should L&D leaders be using AI for?
So again, there's so many different AI systems and models out there. If we use generative AI, so we use the kind of ChatGPT and stuff like that, they are wonderful as an assistant. You can ask it to play any role that you want it to do, and it will come back with a response. But know that it isn't perfect in any way, so you still need that kind of human in there. But it's great for challenging your own way of thinking, trying out new ideas, generating email responses, all of those little things that those admin-y aspects that really kind of break you. You want to remove them. That's where things like ChatGPT can come in. There's other models that can help you with market research. So ChatGPT, I would say, is not a market research AI at the moment anyway. So don't trust it on statistics or anything like that. But there are other models which are available which allow you to access some of that kind of, they might have uploaded a load of white papers or research that's gone into a certain subject, and they give you more scientifically grounded statistics and basis.
Okay, so we can look at those tools as well. We also used a whole load of tools in a piece of content, and we ran it as a marketing workshop initially, and clients have used this approach as well. We called it AI versus HI. So HR being the human intelligence, putting them against each other, teams that could only use AI and teams that could only use their own creativity, ingenuity. It's good. And we saw that it was actually closer than you might think. I think HI wins most of the time, but clients have run this kind of approach partly to just test out the tools, essentially. So not just ChatGPT, but video content creation, slide decks where you can load in some content. It will kind of create those and set them up for you. Image creation, lots of other things, voiceover. So all of those different aspects. If you're stuck in ChatGPT, it's a really good way of just playing with the other ones, and just testing out where the limits are, and like you say, where you need that human touch, where AI falls down and where it can be helpful. That's been an interesting approach.
I love that idea of testing it against human intelligence and seeing where it is. I read somewhere that ChatGPT 3.0 or 3.5, whatever the kind of the free version, it has an IQ of about 87 or 88 or something like that.
Interesting.
So it's like just about average IQ.
Okay.
But ChatGPT 4 has an IQ of about 151 or something like that. So it's increased massively already in just one iteration. So then what happens when it moves on to the next? So so challenging it against humans is really, really, I love that.
Yeah, and keep doing it, I guess. Like the football season comes around again. I guess you need AI versus HI for the new season, for the new AI.
What kind of results did they get out of it?
I suppose you'd probably, as you'd expect, in terms of some of the limitations of AI, in terms of image creation. Sometimes can't do hands brilliantly, at least not at the moment. Sometimes you get a third limb, and it just kind of guesses in terms of limbs. It's like there seems to be a few, so we'll just go with that. But in terms of L&D application, it was really good for anything you needed that was short, sharp, could be fairly general, didn't need so much of the context. A 6-point starter for changing your strategy after an acquisition. It gives you something not too bad. Yeah. But if you want something very tailored, contextual, funny, even, I think those kind of things, where you want human touch.
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
It lacks a little bit on those things.
It's interesting because I think you say about like strategy and stuff like that. You got to remember, AI is built. ChatGPT built on that huge knowledge base that it has, and the language model that they use for it. So it's going to scroll through all of this kind of these different models and this different way of working, and kind of go, here's all these different. This is what most likely, or this is what most companies will do. This is how most things work. So it's like almost like an advanced Google search in that sense as well, right? So I find it. I think it's fascinating to be able to do all of that stuff. And be like, come up with a idea of how to do this, run this exercise, for example. I sometimes like to do that. Is go, okay, this is the exercise I'm thinking of. Like, what do I need in order to make that work? And it kind of helps you just play through and go, right, okay, how do I work through that? You can make it be funny, but just by being completely random with it, I think more than anything else.
With the WWE characters, and that's probably a good way to go.
That's subjective though,
it's true. So we talked about some of the strengths, some of the ethics of it. In truth, we're talking about a technology that has been worked on for decades, but as an industry, as a kind of phenomenon, as something that every employee has access to, at least a free version, that's in its infancy, right?
Yeah. So it's the hype is massive at the moment around kind of AI. There seems to be so much noise around different companies who's bringing out new GPTs, who's investing in what. There's a lot of investment, a lot of capital that's going around and looking, and we are very much in the infancy of all of those companies, and I think it will take time for everything to settle down and for us to start to see who are the winners, who are the losers, who gets hoovered up by other entities. ChatGPT's got links with Microsoft and Google as well, so there's lots of cross-pollination starting to happen already. But at the moment it can feel like there's so much noise, so much stuff going on around it, and actually trying to break through that a little bit and find what's the things that I struggle with, that, and then ask, there's AI search engines specifically for AI models to go and find something that will work for you and go, okay, I'm struggling with coding. Here's a load of code in AIs that can actually help you with that.
And it's quite divisive in that most most people, at least it seems, and what you get from social media at least, is you get the extremes. You get this AI, generative AI is a phenomenon. It changes the game. It's going to revolutionize work. And then you get this is deeply flawed, the way it overlooks disability. It can't be trusted. We need to cut it out, or, company policy where it's just, we cannot use it. How do we manage that? And can we fall somewhere in between, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's with all new technology, there is this moment of fear. I think AI has more fear around it because a lot of the conversation is existential. Like, what happens? Are we going to have 1,000 Arnold Schwarzeneggers walking over the hill, ready to take over everything? And I had a conversation a few years ago, and that was, we were talking about the powers of AI, and I had people from Meta around the table and stuff like that, and we're like, oh yeah, it's brilliant, we're using it for all of this and really understand it. And there was one person who was like, no, this is the end of the human race as we know it. And so the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I think the more you use some of these tools, the more you realize it is a tool. And it can add benefit to your company, to you as a person, in terms of taking on some of those elements that you don't particularly enjoy doing, like creating emails that go out, blanket emails to people, whatever it is. You can use AI to start to use it as a tool rather than kind of worrying about existential elements. Now, is that to say that it won't happen? Who knows? The companies are using it for weird and wonderful things. You talk about disability being hidden as well. I saw a post with somebody who had just uploaded all of the pictures of herself onto an AI program and then posted the results up. Looked really, really good, though it had completely ignored her blatant disability, where she only had half her arm. So AI had regenerated her arm and stuff like that, and it was ignoring it because of the biases that we talked about earlier coming into some of those AI models. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think Arnold Schwarzenegger, or do you think more kind of tool?
Yeah, I think it is a tool, isn't it? And I think of when we first started to be able to use Google to search, and that being something where you're like, can you trust the results? Because some of the websites are credible, some of them aren't. Who's the author? Who wrote that? We had that kind of thing with the internet, with search initially, and with web pages. And I think we've probably, maybe with the way SEO has been improved, we've kind of come to understand that the kind of first page of Google you can broadly most of the time trust. With AI, we haven't quite got to that point where we know exactly what to trust and what not. But it does strike me as the kind of thing that happens, as you say, with any new technology, where there's that initial fear and you're not sure exactly where to put your trust.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably showing my age more than anything here, but when I first started working in offices and stuff, so this is early 2000s, we were just moving away. So I was still working with people who could remember having to do things by ledger and things like that, and having just reams and reams of paper that you were marking stuff off against, and you were like cross-checking, and you would have like dot matrix printers in there printing out like reams and reams of information, and you'd have to cross-check everything. We don't miss any of that now that it's gone, now that we've got these systems that came in. When they first initially come in, everyone's like, oh my God, what is this? No, I love my dot matrix printer. I don't want to lose it. But then quite quickly we get used to that new tool and what it can do. And once we start to see the benefits that it can bring to us, all of a sudden we don't miss that. We don't miss having reams and reams of paper and kind of pencils and going through everything. Yeah. So I think the truth is do I think it's as madly hyped up? I think it is incredibly hyped up at the moment because there's so many different companies around there. There's so much investment in it. So everyone is trying to go for the same pot of money, essentially. And they all want to be seen as the best solution. So it's kind of breaking through that noise a little bit. Think about what works for me, what works for us as a company, what works for me as an individual.
Mm.
How am I going to benefit from it, and kind of
Mm.
try and shut some of that other noise out.
Yeah. And we've just released a white paper on this very topic, helping companies with their AI maturity. And one thing I wanted to speak about this white paper is that it looks at different personas that a company might have regarding AI, which I thought was really interesting, because we think about perhaps whether a company uses it, whether they've got strict policies. This actually breaks it down into the different kinds of ways we might grapple with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it comes with a tool as well. So if you're not really aware of where you lie as a company, there is an AI maturity tool as well. Asks you a load of questions and kind of gives you a kind of a bit of a report in terms of where we believe you might be as a company. But yeah, the personas split up into kind of 4 different aspects. So we have the explorers. So they are your entry level. This is a novelty to me. This is your beginning phases. You're just understanding what does it actually mean, and how do we play with it. And I think a lot of the clients that I speak to, probably at this phase, like, we're aware of it. We're aware of that people are using it, and that they are. We don't not really sure what they're using it for, and we need to kind of drag this back in. So then that sets them into that next phase, which is all about the kind of the learner. So as a company, you are starting to understand what are the benefits that it can bring to me. What are some of the rules that I want to put in place around the use of it, and what do I need to do in order to kind of try and embed it? Talking about training AI champions and having people around your company who can go, this is what the benefit of AI can bring you. This is how you use it. This is how you interact with it.
And this is what to watch out for maybe as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and don't use this free version, use the enterprise version that we've paid for. And now I think that's the biggest step between that first kind of persona, that explorer. A lot of companies went,
explored.
Let's explore,
without too many rules or boundaries.
Yeah, and so,
then went off the cliff.
Yeah, and then probably tried to pull it back a bit too much afterwards, and then didn't think,
that's it. We're not leaving home.
Yeah. So we
no more exploring. Yeah.
We had clients who've just gone like, no, shut it down. That's it. Like we've been burnt, and we're not going to do it ever again. But I think you need to. It isn't going to go away. It is here. And we need to learn how to embed it. So you go to that learner phase, and it's all about kind of, how do we want to use it? What are some of those basic tools that we start to bring in? When we maybe do some pilot projects, and look at actually how we utilize it properly, and be in control of it a little bit more. And then you get to the kind of the adopter stage. So you're looking at, by this stage, you're looking at how do you embed several AI models and kind of business needs, and look at how you bring it in across the business.
And start to make an impact with it across the business.
Yeah.
Get real business impact from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you by this point, you're kind of looking at, right, how can we then automate some of our processes? How do we embed this further and further into the company? And then we start to look at how we can utilize it to strategize and to make some decisions. And then we get to the final kind of level, which is that transformer level. So by this point, you are then, what's the next step? We have AI in there. We can then start to essentially create our own AI. So rather than using the ones off the shelf, we can then start to look at how do we either modify or work with these companies in order to actually start to create our own large language models as well. And really kind of build the company around some of these AI tools.
So not just push the limits of the tools, but start crafting your own tools, bespoke, tailored tools that do exactly what your company is looking for. Yeah.
Again, same as with any other technology. When you bring it in, you probably, first of all, you're looking at all the off-the-shelf responses and going, okay, does this work? That kind of fits for us, and all these different kind of elements that you're looking at, and then eventually you're going to build your own model or have somebody build something for you. And AI is going to be, I think, exactly the same.
So how can Cegos help companies, no matter what maturity they're at? How can Cegos help?
Yeah, so we run AI courses already. So we have AI for managers. So it's preparing managers in how can they make sure that their team's ready. How can they make sure that their team is using it in the correct manner as well? How do I drive productivity as well? And there's a kind of more generalized AI for productivity, which is more for kind of everyone, gives everyone an understanding of what these different models are. How do I create a good prompt and actually play around with the AIs a little bit more and kind of get people ready and understanding how to use this tool in the right way.
Brilliant. So, and if a company wanted to create something more bespoke, more tailored to them in terms of a training on AI, could they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Get in contact with us. We will work with clients however they need it and help to embed it in the way that works for them. How do you want to use AI, and what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on the ethics? Have you been burnt by AI in the past, and so you need some training in terms of these are the rules and this is how we use it properly and make sure that we're not. So yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Neil, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
No, pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Maybe we'll get you back on another time.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Of course, more we could talk about with AI. I don't think it's going to go away as a conversation.
Yeah, I think we could sit here for the next 3 weeks or probably even more.
Maybe 3 decades. Who knows? We'll see. Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you've liked it, please give it a like, a review, and comment. Whatever's around the podcast, click those things. We love that. Thank you, and see you on the next one.